Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our TNA show for the week. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start off with the so-so portions of the night. The stuff that I wasn't good, wasn't bad, it was just there. First off, we had the promo with Bram and Magnus, who talked about Devon. Devon brought a friend who's Tommy Dreamer. They get into a brawl. Oh, to me, and as everyone knows, Devon and Dreamer are two of my favorites. I don't know, something's just not working here, and I really enjoy Bram and I really enjoy Magnus. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's they're out of their league, trying to do hardcore stuff with hardcore legends, but I don't know. Just isn't hitting for me. Next up, we had one of the quarterfinal matches in the tag team tournament. The Hardy Brothers versus EC3 and Tyrus. Another one. I get so frustrated with the Hardys and how at times they go into this paint by numbers match where, and I know everybody does it and has their 5 moves of doom or however you want to mention it. Everybody has their set signature moves, but to me, the Hardys wrestled the same exact match. And I don't know. EC3 and Tyrus, to me, aren't as interesting as EC3 and Rockstar Spud were. Tyrus isn't even as interesting as Rhino was as a bully. And I hate to be the dead horse because I've mentioned it a few times already, but how do you go from being the joke of Brodus Clay for 2.5, 3 years to being the monster bodyguard? To me, it's just, it's not working. And it gives me a lackadaisical approach to it. Now we're going to go into the bad portion of the night. I really only disliked one thing, and that was the match with the Beautiful People versus Madison Rayne and Taryn Terrell. The whole Madison thing was way too contrived, way too predictable, way too cheesy. And it just detracted from the match for me. I mean, I like all 4 of these women. I think they're all 4 good wrestlers. And I think they could have had a great tag team match if they were just given the opportunity to. But I don't know. Just to me, it was silly. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go right into our question of the week. Now, the question of the week last week was, Bram has been spouting out mentioning he's the king of hardcore. My question to you was, who is the actual king of hardcore? Now, I've got some answers here from our friends. First is from our friend Joseph Hatcher. You asked a tough question this week. I would have to say Sandman. Also think Mick Foley. Tommy Dreamer or Sabu could be argued, but Sandman meant a lot to me as a wrestling fan. I loved his entrance and his matches. Interesting choice. I don't know that I expected anybody to choose him. Sandman was amazing for what he did. He found his niche and he thrived in his niche. So very, very good choice. Very interesting though. I guess, well, I'll get into it when I get to mine. Next up is Benjamin Mean 19. Hey, Heel Heat. Wow, 2 Mick Foley questions in a week if you watched our Monday Night Raw or Monday WWE show. We had a question about Foley as well. The king of hardcore is and always will be Mick Foley. When someone comes off the top of a cell, when someone is handcuffed and takes 11 legit chair shots, when someone goes through the cell, they can be considered for that title. Mick Foley's go-to weapon was the 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. I don't think that a wrestler should be considered hardcore until they are associated with a weapon as violent as that. Terry Funk, RVD, and Tommy Dreamer are legends of hardcore, and that level is not attainable anymore because of the issues surrounding concussions in wrestling today. I agree that some of the more dangerous stuff is not there in wrestling today, but I think you could still put on good hardcore matches and still tell a good hardcore story, a violent story. So I think there is some that's available. Me personally, I'm the biggest Mick Foley fan in the world, but the king of the hardcores is Terry Funk. He paved the way. He was the guy. He was the guy that did everything. He put ECW on the map. He put hardcore wrestling in Japan on the map. He was doing hardcore before hardcore was even a term. Him and Jerry Lawler had some brutal, blind, violent, bloody feuds down in Memphis. He was a guy that, as you're watching him, you legitimately thought he was crazy. And not in the, oh, he's crazy Dean Ambrose kind of way, like his character's crazy, like the, is Terry Funk actually crazy kind of way. Which, to me, carried a lot. And I think he's, and even Mick Foley would admit it, he's a lot bigger influence on that style of wrestling than anybody ever gives him credit for. And I know Paul Heyman gushes about him and says that he's the reason there is ECW, or was ECW. And he's the reason Mick Foley idolized him and patterned some of his style after him. I think Terry Funk, for what he did and what he's contributed to wrestling, is the king of the hardcores. And I think, you know, guys like Sandman, who was amazing at what he did, he was a great hardcore wrestler. I agree with that. And Mick Foley, he's my favorite wrestler of all time. Love him to death. It's just that Terry Funk is the guy. He's the godfather. He came in, he might not have done some of the crazy stunts that other guys did, but he was doing moonsaults into his 50s, into his 60s. Through barbed wire, through broken glass, setting people on fire, setting himself on fire. I mean, to me, like I said, he seemed crazy. And to kind of address the other question that came up in your answers, I do think hardcore can thrive again. I think there's creative people can creatively work their way around. As a wrestling fan, do I need to see someone get hit in the head with a chair? No. Not really. Does it add to the brutality of violence? Yes, it looks insane. Seeing the way that Balls Mahoney used to hit people in the head with chairs looked insane. It looked brutal. It looked violent. It looked like it really hurt. The thing in question where The Rock was drilling Mick Foley with the chairs looked insane. Looked amazing on TV. Made the feud look more like Mick Foley or Rock wanted Mick Foley dead. Without chair shots to the head, though, it could still happen. They could still put on a great, violent, brutal match. Barbed wire's not getting hit in the head. You could rip your person apart with barbed wire. You use chair shots to the back. Not the contrived ones where you can see it coming a mile away, but you can do that. There's kendo sticks that have been used, and I know they're overused at this point, and they're almost too much of a gimmick themselves. It's something, and I don't want to go on too much of a rant, something that one of the guys that I consider one of the great hardcore wrestlers of all time, I seen in an interview he said, and that was Sabu, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact quote. But basically, what he said is, when he would put somebody through a table, it's because the table was there on the outside to be used. Or when he would jump off a chair, it's because there was a chair on the outside. It wasn't he had to go under the ring and get a table that was set there for days. It was more spontaneous. I think a lot of times we get into this mentality where we want to see, we know a hardcore match, okay, so we got to see a table, we got to see a chair, we got to see the ladder, and they're all under the ring. I think it would do a lot more if we got the old school style. Like, yeah, use a table every now and then, use chairs, use this, use that. To me, it would do more if the heel went over and pushed the commentator out of his chair or the ring announcer and took their chair, or stole the ring bell from the timekeeper, or stuff of that nature, where it's more has a more organic feel to it. Just my opinion. I think they could go back to having great hardcore matches, is what I'm saying. Just needs creative people to work around the limitations. Just like how people complain about the WWE being PG, the really good wrestlers have worked around the PG era and became stars and made themselves interesting. Guys like Daniel Bryan, John Cena, CM Punk made themselves stars with those limitations. Now, coming off of that, before this is just a rant for the ages, we're going to go into our question of the week for next week. As of right now, what is your favorite current TNA entrance theme? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on our Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put their comments down where? Right down there in the comments. There's a little box, you can put it in. Now, going back to the show, and the good portions of the night, the stuff I actually liked. The first of the two quarterfinal tag team matches chronologically, but second on the show, was Samoa Joe and Low Ki versus Kenny King and MVP. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was two teams that haven't matched up and haven't really crossed paths with each other. I thought it made a fun match. I thought it was cool. I enjoyed this one exponentially more than I did the Hardys versus EC3 and Tyrus. I think the Hardys versus Joe and Low Ki might be a good match. I don't know. Like I said, the Hardys go paint by numbers too much. If we can pull them out of that, when the Hardys get pulled out of that comfort zone is when they do their best work, in my opinion. And I think Matt Hardy, of the two, a lot of people give Jeff the credit for being such a great wrestler and innovator and all this stuff, and he's good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing Matt, or not dissing Jeff. But to me, Matt adapts way better. Jeff Hardy really hasn't changed his style in the last 15, 17 years. Matt Hardy's adapted, added wrinkles, added different things in, and made himself different than he was. If you watch a Matt Hardy match now, and you watch a Matt Hardy match from 1998, they're two different wrestlers. And yeah, there's some elements that are the same, there's some signature moves that are exactly the same, but there's different psychology, and different moves, and different flavor added. I think Matt's evolved in a better way than Jeff Hardy ever did, in my opinion. Next up, we had a segment with James Storm coming out with Manic and the Great Sonata, calling out Davey Richards to join his revolution. Richards comes out, and before he can answer, his tag team partner in the Wolves, Eddie Edwards, comes out. Basically sets up a match with Edwards versus Storm, which comes right after the commercial. We see during that match, Davey Richards on the outside conflicted between his tag team partner and kind of buying into what James Storm is selling him. But it's cool. I like the tease of the tension between the Wolves. I like the fact that at the end of the match, Richards didn't tell Eddie that Storm was behind him to kick him in the face, which Storm kicks him in the face and wins. I thought it was cool and interesting. I think, it might be early to split the Wolves up in TNA, but I'm a Ring of Honor fan, and I've seen both these guys as single wrestlers, and they can more than hold their own as singles attractions as well. So I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Kept me very interested. I want to see where it goes from here. And that's basically the main thing that wrestling needs to do, is make you want to see what comes next. It's like a soap opera. You want to tune in next week to see what happens because of what happened this week. Is Storm and Davey Richards going to break up next week? Are they going to patch it up? Or I'm sorry, is Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards? Is Davey Richards going to go to James Storm? Is it all a swerve? Is Eddie Edwards really going to go with James Storm? It's all... When it keeps you intrigued like that, that's when wrestling's at its best, in my opinion. Last but not least, the main event of the night, Bobby Roode versus Bobby Lashley, a battle of the Bobbies for the world title with Kurt Angle as a ref. Bobby Roode picks up the win in what I thought was a good match, not a great match. Great ending. I think Bobby Roode is a way better TNA World Champion than Lashley ever could be. To me, Lashley's all hype, no substance. Bobby Roode is one of the best TNA wrestlers I think there's been ever, in my opinion. So I enjoyed the outcome. Match was so for me, to be honest. But I do enjoy the fact that we got Bobby Roode as a world champion. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go in our ratings. We have a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. 1 is a Dixie Carter, 2 is a Rockstar Spud, 3 is a Gunner, 4 is a James Storm, 5 is a Bobby Roode. I'm going to give the show a 3, a Gunner. Kind of up and down, a couple good matches, a couple good angles, some very ho-hum, and the whole Knockouts tag match was, just, I thought stupid in my opinion, but kind of middle of a road, kind of hodgepodge of what could have been. Like I said, some good stuff, some bad stuff, some just boring stuff. But basically, that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles. This has been another episode of Heel Heat.